course. So in this video we are going to be creating a 5 buttons by just using HTML and CSS. No JavaScript, no nothing. So the first button will be this one. So if you hover over it, so it will now give us download button right here, okay? And now the next button we will have is over hover me, and once we hover over it, so it will now give us kind of a book or pages kind of animation right here. And now the third button we are going to be creating is this two-sided perspective right here. And now the fourth button we are going to be creating is this border fill kind of button right here. And then the fifth one which you are going to be creating is this button double kind of animation right here. So this is what we are going to be building in this video. So without wasting any further time, now let's jump right into our code editor and write our code. In this video we are going to be creating a creative buttons. So I'll just write like our 5 top 5 creative buttons. Okay, inside there I'm going to create a few folders like btn1, and then inside there btn2, and now let me create 5 of them like btn3, btn4, and then finally btn5. Okay, so each of them will have like index.html file and style.css file. So I'll just write like a doc type HTML in it, and then I'll just write like btn1 and then link it with my CSS file, and then I'll just copy both of them and then paste it here, paste it here, paste it here, and also paste it here. And I'm gonna collapse all of them right now. So I'm gonna start from the first btn, and I'll also open the CSS file, and now I'm gonna open it with a live server right here. And now here you can see we are now working with our first button. So for HTML, I'll just write like a section, give a class of container. Inside this section, I'll just create an anchor tag which will go to nowhere, and I'll just write like hover me. Okay, so this is the HTML for the first button, and now let's style that. Okay, so first of all, I'm gonna select all of that resets. I'll just provide a reset to it, like padding will be 0, margin will be 0, box sizing will be border box. And then I'll just select that container which is containing this anchor tag right here. So I'll now select that like container, and now inside this container I'll just write like display of flex, and justify content will be center because we want everything to be center. Okay, so that's why we are using display flex, justify content center, and align item center. And now here I'll just provide a height 200 vh because we want them to be like take all of the place, and we want this button to be perfectly center. Okay, and now let's provide a background to it like RGBA, not a but just RGB of 16 and 16 and 16. Okay, and finally font family will be sans serif, and once we save files, so here you can see our button is now perfectly center, and we have this this background color right here, nothing much. All right, so now let's select our first button, which is this right here. So now I want to just select this anchor tag right here, and text decoration will be none, so we now just remove their text decoration from it. And now let's work with the color of it. So I'll just try a color to like I don't know which kind of color will be fine. I guess I'll just go to like NTQ white. Sorry, I cannot pronounce this one. So I'll just write a border of 2 pixels solid, and that same color. And then a padding will be 2 rem and 5 rem, like 2 rem from top and bottom, and 5 rem from left and right. And position will be relative. Okay, because we are going to be working with the before attribute, so that's why we are providing a relative position right here. Okay, and then overflow will be hidden, and then finally I guess that will be fine, and I'm gonna save this file. So here you can see we have now this button right here, and once we hover over to it, so nothing is gonna happen. So for that we have to provide a before attribute. So I'll just select it, and I'll just write before, and the content will be just set to like download. Okay, and then we have like font weight of bold. Once we save our file, so here you can see we have this download, and we have this like hover me because we are providing this download as a content to before this anchor tag right here. Okay, so then I'm going to provide a color of pure black, and then finally position to absolute because this is a position relative, so we want this before to be inside this relative. Okay, we want this before to be absolute, the actual anchor tag will be relative. So once we save our file, so here you can see these both of them will be at the top of each other. Okay, so Now the left will be 0 and the top will be also 0. The height will be 100%, and the width will be also 100%. So I'll just take it like that. And then what else do we got? I'm gonna just change the background color to that same background. So I'll just write this one and then transform and then translate it with the X, not X, but just a Y, minus 100%. Okay, and then I will just write like transition of all 1 second, because we will have a hover effect, so that's why I'm writing a transition right here. So once we save the file, so here you can see we have this transition here. You can see if I refresh it, so nothing's gonna happen. Let me just write save it. Okay, nothing's gonna happen until I write a hover effect to it. Now let's center our text to it. So I'll just write like display. I'll just copy it from here, or we can also just write it manually, but I'll just copy it from here. I don't want to waste your time. So display will be flex, justify center, align item center. And once we save the file, nothing's gonna happen because we didn't provide any hover effect to it. So if I just select it and then I will just write hover before. Okay, so then I will just write transform, and it will be now translate Y, and it will be now equal to 0. And I forgot to provide a transition for that, which will be just a select anchor, and then I'm going to just write in transition of all 1 second. And once we save our file and once we hover over to it, so here you can see that download will be coming from top to bottom. You can just mess around with that. Like let's suppose if I just remove that 100 minus, and once we save that, so here you can see it will now coming from bottom to top right here. So if you want to change this to like X maybe, and once we save our file, so it will now coming from the right. And now if you provide a minus X, and once we save our file, so it will now come from this place. All right, so now let me undo this one, and let me just provide this minus right here, and once we save our file, so that this animation can be happen from top to bottom. And this is our first button right here. So you can change the background color, you can change the text of it, you can change the button text, you can do a lot of stuff with that, but I just kind of want to give you a simple example of this animation. All right, so this was the first one, so I'll just remove that one and remove the first button. And now let's work with the second button. So let me just launch it with live server and change the text to the title to be 2. And here I'll just write like anchor tag and no classes whatsoever. It will go nowhere, and we have like hover me. And once we save our file, so we have this hover me button right here. Okay, so now let's begin with our styling. So I'll just select our body right here. Height will be oh my goodness, height will be 100 VH. Display will be flex, and then justify content will be center, align items will be center, font family will be sans serif. And once we save our file, so here you can see our button is now perfectly centered at the screen. Okay, and now let's select anchor tag. So now we select our anchor tag. I'm gonna write a padding to it to like 2 rem and then 3 rem, and then I'll just write like text transform of uppercase, because we want all of the text to be like uppercase. We could have just write it like manually, but you know what, that's gonna do the thing. Then we have a background color of blue violet or blue violet, whatever you want to call it. And then we have a just a color will be totally white, and then we have font size will be 1.5 rem. And then here you're going to be writing a position relative, because we are going to be writing a before attribute, so that's why we are writing a position relative right here. Okay, so text decoration will be none. And once we save our file, so this is our pure button right here. Now let's provide a before attribute to it. So the content will be just like a button, I guess that will be fine. And then we have a position absolute, and once we save our file, so here you can see it will be stick at the top of each other right here. And if I just remove this position absolute, so here you can see it will be now besides each other right here. So let me provide a position absolute, and then top will be 0, and then left will be also 0, and then let me write a width of 100% and height of also 100%, and then background will be crimson. And once we save our file, so here you can see this is the before state right here. So now let's suppose if I comment that and save it, so here you can see this is our actual button, and this is the before state. Okay, so now let's center or content inside the button. So I'll just write like display of flex, and then justify content of center, align items will be center. And now let's provide or rotation to this button. So there we are going to be just providing like transform, and let me just write it manually right here. Let's provide or rotation slash animation, because this will be rotation and we will provide animation to it as well. So I'll just write like rotate to the X to 70 degree. Let me just write a 70 DEG for degree, and transform origin will be top. And we want this animation to happen a bit smoothly, so you're going to be just providing transition. Come on. Transition to all 0.5 seconds, and not milliseconds, but just a second would be fine. So this is the before state. Now the before state is complete, so now let's work with the after state. So I'll just select like after. I'll just provide after state, and then the content will be button right here, and then the position will be also absolute, because this will be the top, so this will be a position relative. This one will be the bottom, so this one will be a position absolute, and this one will be also the bottom, so this one will be also the position absolute. Okay, so here I'll just provide a top of 0, duplicate it, and left will be also 0, and then we have a width of 100%, and then duplicate and height will be also 100%, because we want them to take all of the entire space of this anchor tag right here. Okay, like the before and after, both of them will take the entire space. And then I want to just provide a background of like let me remove the RGB. I guess RGB will be fine, not A. So I'll just provide 14, and then 231 comma 14. And then finally display of flex, because we want to center everything. Justify corner will be center, content will be center, and then align items will be also center, and then transform, and then rotate, not transition but transform, rotate X, and it will be now equals to 270 degree. And then transform origin will be now set to top. Then transition will be now set to all 0.5 seconds. And then finally, we are going to be just providing a bit of delay. So transition delay will be 0.25 seconds. So once we save our file, and once we hover over my mouse over to this button, so nothing will happen, because we forgot to provide a hover effect to them. So I'll just zoom out a bit so that you guys can see everything, all of the code. I'm going to also review the code, but you know what, I'll just write, let me just zoom in a bit. So first of all, let me select that a hover effect to the before, comma, duplicate it, and then we have to provide it to after as well, and then remove that comma from there. Okay, and then I'll just provide transform of rotate to the X, and then here angle will be 0. Once we save our file, and now once we hover over to this button, so here you can see, so first of all we will have the before button, and then we will have our after button right here. Okay, so once we hover our mouse over to it, so this is what's gonna happen. Alright, so now let me review the code. So first of all, we have like the styling. You don't have to worry about that, because this is quite simple and easy. Then we just style or anchor tag right here. We provide a color of that blue color. Then the actual color will be white, and the font size will be 1.5, and this one will be position relative, because we are going to be providing a before and after. So that's why we are providing a position of relative to it, and we are just removing a text decoration of that underline to none. Then here as a content, we provide a button as a before, and then position absolute. If I just comment this position absolute, and once we save our file, so here you can see this is what's going to happen. Like, I don't know what's happening, but this is what's happening. Yeah, that's it. So if I uncomment it, and then we have like top will be 0 and left will be 0, and width will be 100% and height will be 100%. So if we change the width and height from this, okay, let me save that. So if we change the width and height to like something else, like I don't know, 90%, and once we save our file, and once we hover over to it, so check out the second button. Here you can see it's not taking the entire space, it's taking just 90% of it. So if we provide like 100 and save it, So here you can see now perfectly taken 100%. So if we provide like instead of 100%, I provide 80, and now if I hover over to it, so here you can see the second, focus on the second button, it's taking the 80%. Now let me just write like 20% so that you can see it clearly. So if I hover over to it, so this is the second button, here you can see that. Alright, so now let me add that to 100%. So this is the before and this is the after. Now here we are providing our rotation slash animation right here because you want them to be transformed to the X like 270 degree and the transform origin to be top. And here we are providing the transition to all of them to like 0.5 second because we want the transition to be a bit smooth. So if I just remove that once we save our file, so here you can see it's gonna happen quickly, so we don't want that. Like here you can see, and once we just uncomment it and save our file, so here you can see it's now becoming smoothly. If I just instead of 0.5, if I just write like 1 second, so it will take a bit of time. Like let me change this one as well and save it, and here you can see it's now taking a little bit of more time and we don't want that. Okay, so just undo it one more time and undo it one more time. So this is the second button, and now let's cut that one and cut that one. So now let's start working with the third button and then just start working on it and then launch the live server and then remove that button. Alright, so change this title to 3. Now we are good to go. So now that you understand the concept, so you can do this one by yourself. It's not that much tricky, but now let me write it for you. So I'm gonna just write anchor tag go nowhere, hover me. Okay, so this is the HTML. Here you can see that pretty, yeah, I know that. And now let's start. Our body will be a height 100%, display flex, justify corner center, align item center, font family sans serif. And now let's select our anchor tag. Width will be 300 pixel, and then height will be just a 60%. Okay. And then text decoration will be none. You know what's that gonna do? And then text transform will be uppercase and background will be transparent. And now let's provide a text a line of center, and then line height of 60 pixel, font where to bold, and letter spacing will be just 2 pixel. And position will be relative because you want to work with the before and after attributes. So then I will just provide a transition to all 0.2 seconds because you want the transition to be a bit smoother, and the text color to be just a pure white. And this is what it looks like currently because we changed the color to like pure white, so that's why we can see nothing. So now let's work with the before and after attributes. So I'll just select that and I'm gonna just write like before right here. And then the content will be nothing, but we still have to provide a content, and then position will be absolute. So now we are currently inside this button right here. You know the stuff which I just explained a second ago. Top will be 0, not 0 but -3 pixel, and then just duplicate, and left will be also -3 pixel, and width will be 100%, and height will be also 100%. Okay. And now let's change the background color to like this cool color like 06C9 add A4. Okay, A4. This is the color, and the Z index will be -1. Then the mix blend mode will be equals to all, not all, but multiply. Then the transition will be all 0.2 seconds, and transform origin will be at the top. And once we save our file, so this is the first portion of our button, and so this is the before state. So now let's work with the after state as well. So then I'll just write like anchor tag and then after, and then here I'll just write like content of nothing, and then position will be absolute, and then top will be 3 pixel, and then the left will be also 3 pixel, width will be 100%, and the height will be 100% as well. And now let me just write like background to FFFF 4 Fs and then 00A6. Okay, so it will take that color, kind of a yellowish color, and then Z index will be -1, and then mix blend mode will be also multiply, and then we are going to be providing a transition to all 0.2 seconds, and then transform origin will be bottom in this case. So once we save our file, so here you can see the blend mode is working the way it's meant to work. So this is the before and that one is the after state. So now let's provide a hover state to it. So let's suppose we just hover over the before state, and then I'll just write top of -6 pixel, and then left will be 0, and then transform will be perspective, and then I'll just provide 1,000 pixel instead of 100, and then I'll just write rotate X and then 75 degree. And once you save a file, and once I hover my mouse over to it, so here you can see it will now rotate at 75 degree with the perspective of that 1,000 right here. Okay, same will work with the after, but instead of that 75 degree, we are going to have to provide the minus, and we also have to change this to after. Okay, and instead of minus, here we are going to be just writing a 6 pixel, and once we save our file, and once we hover our mouse over to it, okay, so now the text is not showing up. So once we hover or anchor text, we want the color to be totally black. So once we save it, and here you can see this is our third button right here. Okay, this was quite simple and easy. So now let's work with our fourth button. So I'll just remove that one. Now let's select our fourth button, and then change the title to like 4, save it and launch it with the live server, and remove that third one, and now we are good to go. Alright, so for that we will also have to provide a section with the class of container, and then button with the class of btn, and then learn more. Okay, so this is our pure button right here. And now let's work with the styling. So first of all, the resets padding will be 0, and okay, so margin will be also 0, box sizing will be border box, and then the container should have to be height 100 vh, display flex, justify center, align center, font family will be sans serif, and background will be crimson. Save it, and this is our button and this is our background. Okay, so then we have to select our button, and then border will be none because we want to remove border. Padding will be 1 rem and 4 rem, and once we save our file, so this is how it looks like currently. And now let's provide a background to it to like RGBA, and then I don't know, 17 comma 17 comma 137 comma 0.8824. Okay, this will be the color, and once we save it, and this is how it looks like. So now let's change the text color to pure white, and then font size to 22 pixel, and then text transform to uppercase, and then cursor will be pointer, and we also want them to be position relative because we want to work with the before and after. So this is how our buttons looks like currently. And now we have to provide a container here and container here. So whenever we hover our mouse over to it, so it will take the entire space, and we want to just provide border around them, and we don't want to show the container. So this is what's gonna happen. Okay, so select that button, and then I'll just write before, and then I'll just write a content of nothing, and then position will be absolute because we want it to be inside that button, and 24% will be the width, and height will be also 24%. Then we have top -10 pixel and left also -10 pixel. Okay, so let's suppose if I provide a background of teal, and once you save a file, so here you can see that border, I mean like that container right here. So once we hover over to this button, so we want this container kind of thing to take the entire space, and we want to just provide a border to it, and that background will be transparent. Okay, so let me just write that. So let me comment this one, and then just write a border top to it, or you know what, let me just uncomment that, and border top will be 4 pixel solid dark blue, and then border left will be also dark blue and 4 pixel, and then transition all 0.25 seconds. So once we save our file, so here you can see this is the border around this text. So now you want to remove that existing background. So how can you do that? Well, we just have to remove that background. And once we save our file, so here you can see this is now our container. So now once we hover over to this button, so you want this border to take the existing space. Okay, so this is what's going to happen. So now let me select the button hover, and then before, and then I'll just provide a height to it 100%, and the width will be also 100%. So once you save our file and hover our mouse over to it, so here you can see it's taking the existing space. So if I uncomment this background color of teal, and once we hover our mouse over to it, so this is what's happening behind the scenes. But if I just remove this background color and once we save it, and this is now the actual button. Okay, so now let's provide a After Effects to it, not Adobe After Effects, but just After Effect. So I'll just write like btn after, and then content will be nothing, and position will be absolute, and then width will be 24 pixel as well, and height will be also 24 pixel, and bottom will be minus 10 pixel, and right will be also minus 10 pixel, and then border bottom will be 4 pixel, solid dark blue, and now let me change this bottom to right as well. And then finally we have our transition right here, all 0.25 seconds. Okay, and now here I'm gonna have to provide a comma, duplicate it, and then change this one to after, and then remove that comma. And once we save our file, I guess okay. So once we save our file, and now once we hover our mouse over to this button, so here you can see that effect is happening. So if I just provide like background color of like black, and here you can see now it's taking the existing space. So now let me remove that background color from it. So once we save our file, so here you can see this is how our buttons look like. Alright, so finally we have to work with the final and the fifth button. So let me just open that and open this file as well, launch the live server, and then remove the button 4. Alright, so for HTML, I'll just write a section with the class of container, and it will just take one button which will say hover me. And now in CSS, I'll just provide a few resets like padding, and then margin, and then box sizing, border box. And then finally I'm going to select this container, height will be 100%, display will be flex, and justify content will be center, align items will be center, font family will be sans serif, and background will be totally black. So this is our button looks like. So now let's select our anchor, not anchor, yeah, anchor tag, but position will be absolute this time, text decoration will be none, and text transform will be uppercase, padding will be 1 rem and 4 rem, and then finally background color will be totally white. And then all right, so what else do you got? Color will be just totally black, and then border radius will be 100 pixel, and then font size will be 1.5 rem. Okay, transition of all 0.2 seconds once we save our file. So this is our button look like currently. So now let's provide a before. So I'll just write a before, and now let's provide a content of nothing, and then position will be also absolute, and then top will be 0, and left will be also 0, width will be 100% because we want to take the entire space, height will be 100% as well, and then background will be totally white, and then border radius will be 100%, 100 pixel to be precise, and then transition will be all 1 second, and then z index will be -1. And once we save our file, we didn't provide any hover effect to it, so that's why it's giving us nothing. So now let me just write that a hover, and then before transform will be now equals to scale. You want to scale the x-axis to 1.4%, not percent but just 1.4, and then scale y to 1.6. Save it, and once we hover our mouse over to it, nothing is gonna happen because this is the before one. Now let's select our hover, and then once we provide a transform and translate of x to it, and then I will just write -3 pixel, Then I'll just provide a bit of box shadow. So I'll just write box shadow of 0, 10 pixel, 20 pixel RGBA of 0, 0, 0 and 0.2. And now let me just duplicate it, and it will also work on active state as well. Active, and it will be translate y and -1, and instead of 5 pixel I'll just instead of 10 pixel I'll just write 5 pixel and then 10 pixel and save our file. And once you hover mouse over it, so this is what's going to happen. So instead of the absolute, I'll just provide relative and save our file. Now I change this one to y, and now let's change this one to, instead of relative, to be absolute, save our file. And now here inside this before, I'll just provide opacity of 0, and once we save our file and once we hover over it, so this is the hover effect right here. Okay, so that was about our 5 projects. So now let me just launch all of them one by one. So this is our first one, and like once we hover our mouse over it, and this one is our second one. Once we hover mouse over it, it's kind of like a book, and this one is our third one, and it will just open like side by side. And this one is our fourth one. Now let me open this one as well. Okay, so it will take the entire space. And finally we have our fifth one, which is right this one. So we already launched that, but let me launch it one more time. 1 2 3 4 5. All right, so this is what we built in this video. I hope you enjoyed the video. So now if you guys don't know about Git and GitHub, so feel free to skip this video. If you guys do know about Git and GitHub, and if you want to push your code to your GitHub repository, so then watch the rest of the video. So I've already opened my terminal right here. Then I'm going to use git status, and we have this O5. So I'm going to just use git add and then everything. I want to add everything, and then git commit -m, and then top 5 creative buttons added, and then I want to hit enter, and everything is clear. Then I want to just use git status, and everything is clear. Then git push it origin main. Okay, and if I hit enter right here, so it will just push our code into our GitHub account. So now you can have access to this code. If I refresh that, and here you can see we have this top 5 buttons. So this is our first, second, third, fourth and fifth one. So I think that was it about today's video, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.